please, ladies and gentlemen, for Kate NICHOLLS.
Thank you very much, Peter, and thank you, Harry, for those kind words of introduction. I think what your introduction set out is how collaborative our sector is, how much we can work together, and how we are greater than the sum of our parts. But my role is to be the sort of front-facing voice of the sector when we come to government. And we cover everything from pubs, bars, restaurants, hotels, holiday accommodation, the visitor economy. And that means that we have a strong voice when we go to government and a united voice for the whole sector, which has been critical over the last 18 months in getting that cut through. It was only 2018 when we actually merged all the different trade associations to create UK hospitality, and never has that investment been more worthwhile than over the last 18 months, because it allowed us to go to government as the third largest private sector employer, 3.2 million people employed in hospitality, a further 1.5 million in our supply chain, a sector that pre-pandemic was worth £130 billion a year in revenue, £40 billion a year in taxes, and our third largest export earner. Visitors to the UK, international visitors, spend more eating and drinking out in the UK hospitality industry than all of our food and drink exports put together. So we had, by coming together, by working together as one industry, been able to present that compelling case to government about why we were an industry that needed that support and why we were able to get the cut through in the early stages of the pandemic to make sure that we got the support we deserved so that the industry could come out of the other side. Because an industry of that size, scale and importance that was forecast to grow 5% year on year, generate 1 in 6 of net new jobs and invest £10 billion in our high streets annually has been decimated by the pandemic. And we've been working incredibly hard. I'm incredibly proud of my team and all of the people in the room who've helped to support us, as well as the other trade associations who've helped to support us in being able to make sure that we got through that pandemic. We've come out of the other side, and now we are looking to the future with a bit more optimism about how we can recover that. But we've been able to make sure that in 15 financial statements, 15 major budget statements over the course of the last 18 months by the government and by Number 10, hospitality has been at the top of their priority list, has been the one sector that they keep coming back to time and time again. It's never enough. We would always want more, but they have kept their priority level as high as they possibly can in making sure that we come through this. And the government's own analysis shows that we've been hit first, hit hardest, and the impact on our businesses will be longer. So what I wanted to do today was not to dwell on the damage that's done to the sector. That £130 billion contribution, we lost £100 billion over the pandemic. We lost 660,000 colleagues whose jobs we weren't able to save. We lost 10,000 businesses, 1 in 10 of our independent hotels lost to the pandemic. I want to talk about what we're doing next, give you an overview about the areas that we're lobbying and campaigning on your behalf, working collaboratively together to make sure that we can repair that damage and rebuild back better. And then to touch on some of the future issues, as Peter said, to look particularly at COP26 and employment. So all the way through, we've had a very clear 3-point plan that we've taken to government about what we need to be able to get back for our industry. And I'm really pleased that one of the positive things that came out of the pandemic, I always look for a silver lining, is that we managed to get a hospitality unit and a hospitality minister established within BEIS. We've got a hospitality recovery strategy that the government is working through at pace to be able to look at some of the challenges that Harry identified that we know are standing in our way. And to complement that, we've got a tourism recovery plan and a tourism minister in the DCMS department and a food minister in DEFRA. So coming out of the pandemic, we now have 3 ministers looking after the breadth of hospitality, 2 government plans, the first hospitality strategy ever, and a commitment from the government that they will recover tourism, inbound and domestic, revenues and footfall a year ahead of international targets. Now that's a hugely ambitious target. International recovery is looking at 2024-25. The government is looking to bring that forward to 2023. And that's across government, that's a cabinet level endorsement of a plan and an objective to meet. So we need to hold their feet to the fire to put in place the mechanisms that we need to be able to deliver that and to recover the industry. So first and foremost, it's about reopening. I know we are all open, and as Mike said, it's great that we are travelling, it's great that we can have in-person events, But we are still operating with several hands tied behind our back, and we aren't operating yet at full strength. So it's about making sure that the UK government reopens fully the international travel market, we remove some of those restrictions and disincentives to travel in the UK, and we keep consumer confidence high with no talk about winter economic plans, Plan B, or COVID vaccine passports, which would be so devastating to consumer confidence. So it's about making sure that they keep on track and we keep reopen. Secondly, it's about making sure that we can recover fully and rapidly and as quickly as we possibly can. This is about rebuilding shattered balance sheets, it's about restocking cash reserves, and it's about getting back to the investment levels that we talked about before. So the hospitality plan talks about that recovery phase as being completed by April. So it's about making sure that we've got the budget support and the headroom from VAT and business rates relief so that we can continue to trade profitably. But the single biggest challenge that is getting in the way of recovery at the moment is the people challenge. And that's what we're spending quite a lot of time working with the Cabinet Office and working with Number 10 on. It's the labour shortages, both within our own businesses, hospitality labour shortages currently running at 10%. So we are operating at just under our maximum optimum capacity. We're actually operating now, and the evidence is coming through increasingly, that we're not able to service the increased levels of demand we are getting from customers. And certainly at an international level, if international ticks up in the way that we are hoping it will, we won't be fully staffed enough to be able to deliver that full strength, full service offering. And increasingly, we are seeing businesses having to turn away business. The cruelest of ironies, a quarter of our businesses post-reopening have had to close for certain days of the week, close certain covers in the restaurants, close restaurants. I mean, I've never seen London restaurants closed in certain times of the week, and certainly hotel restaurants not open for certain times. And actually London hoteliers now reporting that they are turning away room bookings because they don't have the staff to be able to accommodate the demand and to cater for the demand. So we are operating with a quarter of our businesses saying they are doing one of those measures. We're operating at 20% below our normal revenue levels that we would anticipate. It's a huge economic hit that the Chancellor is not benefiting from. So we are working at pace to try and resolve some of those labour challenges issues so that we can rebuild back resilience. So the resilience phase of what we're working on is about debt, and it's about driving down debt and making it financially sustainable and getting the breathing space the businesses need to invest. And secondly, it's about addressing those labour challenges. And we have gone to the government. We worked with DWP in the first instance. So hospitality is the only sector of the economy that DWP is prioritising at Job Centre Plus levels and pushing people proactively to come and choose us as a career of choice. And we're making sure that they have the tools and the mechanisms and the information from Springboard and all of those other partners that Harry talked about to make sure they understand the breadth and scale and opportunities that exist within hospitality rather than seeing us as an entry-level job, which is where Job Centre Plus has traditionally put it in. Secondly, it's about making sure that we have the flexibility, so pressing for reform of apprenticeship levy, pressing for reform of Kickstart, so that we can make sure that we can invest in our teams. And we were successful as a direct result of having that master inholders briefing with the then Secretary of State for Education, Gavin Williamson. The pressure that we put on him through that meeting delivered an immediate change. So now we are included in the Lifetime Skills Guarantee, and the funds that are available from government to fund ongoing professional development in the sector include hospitality qualifications for the first time. And then thirdly, it's about looking at mapping the labour market. The government does not currently have an overall grasp of the number of people that are available for work in the UK, the number of people who have left, and what the gaps in the labour market are. So we've pressed for a strategic labour market review, which can then feed in to re-inform the immigration policy and pushing government to do a reset, a COVID reset. We as employers are also doing our COVID reset. We're looking at terms, conditions, wages, the ways in which we work, the employability issues, the brand of UK hospitality as an employer, and building on the great work of the Hoteliers Charter. But the government also needs to do a COVID reset moment. The policies that they have for immigration, for training, for skills, for vocational education in our catering colleges were set up pre-COVID. We need to make sure that the policy is fit for purpose going forward longer term. And then finally, it's about making sure that we can recover our renaissance. We are a resilient sector. If we have the conditions to reopen, to recover, to grow, to build back better in resilience, then we can deliver that renaissance for the UK economy, play our role and our part in making sure that Britain plays Britain on the global stage, and the role we can play in helping the government to deliver its core objectives. So the government is very preoccupied about levelling up, which is all about sense of place. It's about delivering jobs, growth, investment and opportunity at pace, at scale, in all parts of the UK, and nobody does it better, faster or more successfully than hospitality. So our message to the government is, if you back us, we will level up for you. We will deliver your policies in action. Secondly, it's about making sure that we can deliver the government's objective on COP26 and the green economy. Again, we are a very sustainable industry. We have commitments about inclusivity, diversity, which is all part and parcel of sustainability, and the initiatives we're taking at COP26. So we were very pleased that even in the depths of the crisis at COVID, we were able to put together a carbon net zero forum across hospitality to get the bigger players across the industry to come together, to share their data, to measure the benchmarks of what our carbon footprint is as a hospitality sector, and to start to put in place the mechanisms and joint action that we can all take to reduce our carbon footprint. We launched it just before COP26. We held a showcase at COP26 with ministers supporting us and endorsing us, and this is key for us unlocking future support from the government on the issues like immigration, on the issues of financial support. So that will then feed out. So we've taken all the data from the big companies. They've put in place the plans to be able to deliver for our own operational issues, carbon net zero for the hospitality sector by 2030 and carbon net zero across our supply chain. And about 80% of our carbon emissions come from our supply chain. So we need to work closely and collaboratively with our suppliers in the industry to be able to live a carbon net zero by 2040. Now, how do you eat an elephant in bite-sized chunks? This is all about the small changes that we can all make, and the big companies working together are putting out toolkits that the smaller independent businesses will be able to take and adapt at every level of their business, both waste, energy, food waste, water, to be able to deliver that carbon net zero. And some very small changes as well. You know, one of the great case studies that we got from that was that one of the largest cocktail chains in the UK, the biggest carbon footprint that they had was in the passion fruit garnishes to go in the porn star martinis. If you take the passion fruit out of the porn star martini, we reduce our carbon emissions immeasurably. So it's those kind of quick tips and tricks that we'll be putting forward. And then it's about making sure that the government supports us to be the shop window that it needs in the rest of the world. This is going to be a hugely important year that we are facing into. Hospitality has already proved that it can host COP26, the G7 down in Cornwall, G20 ministerial meetings. This is what the government needs as its flagship industry to be firing on all cylinders so that when it goes out and sells global Britain, it does so with the best. And the Prime Minister has taken quite a few times the opportunity to say that it's our world-class hotels, pubs, bars, restaurants that give us the strength, that mean London will always compete as the #1 world city. Well, only if you back us and you give us the support we need in terms of lower rates of VAT, of full-strength employment, and the other measures that we've talked about before. So it's now about moving forward from COVID. Yes, there's a lot of recovery that we still need to do. Yes, we do have some significant challenges and hurdles ahead. And yes, my favourite metaphor, we've survived the black swan, but the grey rhinoceros of debt and the labour shortages will continue to run alongside us. The next 18 months will be as challenging as the last 18 months have been. But if we work collectively together across all of the associations that Harry mentioned, then I think he is right. We have a very resilient industry that can recover back to generating 1 in 6 of net new jobs, £10 billion of investment in our high streets and communities, and a tax return to the Exchequer of £40 billion, which is equivalent to our entire social care budget. So we should be very proud of what we deliver in hospitality, and we should look forward to celebrating together as we host the Commonwealth Games, the Platinum Jubilee, and that return to growth and recovery next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate, and we've allowed some time now for questions from the audience, so I hope you'll have questions, and Helen has got a microphone. She'll come and find you if you put your hand up, or I will, so you can put your question to Kate. Who'd like to kick the conversation off? Yes, I'll come to Michael, because I'm closest, shall I? What's your name, Chuck, and where do you come from?
G'day. That answers most of the question already, doesn't it? Good morning, Kate. I've heard you speak recently about how our industry is the best industry for young people to get into leadership roles early in their lives, in their careers, and yet still we seem to find that hospitality is not a very popular career. We've heard several people talk about how parents don't think it's a great career for their kids to get into. How can we in this industry be part of changing that? What do you think we need to do? What can we do?
Well, I mean, this is something that predates COVID. This isn't a new challenge that we faced. We are starting to work to put together some of the measures that will need to be taken forward. Fundamentally, we need to fund a large-scale advertising and recruitment campaign that presents the benefits of hospitality as a job and as a career, and I think they are two different messages, and I think we need to do both. So we need to be able to explain to people how you can move from it being away from this perception of a dead-end job, how you can develop in it, and I think a couple of the things that really resonate with younger people in particular. No other industry gives you and delegates responsibility and authority to you at such a young age and at such a low level within the business, nor are you able to move so rapidly up in other industries, not even retail. You know, within 18 months of starting, if you are bright, you're able, and you can come with no qualifications, no experience, and you can go up into management. So I think there is a need to be able to make that case and to sell it in a way that young people want. And we need to have a recruitment campaign that takes young people and sells to young people. And if you are over 25, you shouldn't be in that recruitment campaign, because to somebody who's 18, anybody who's over 25 is ancient. So the last thing we want to do is to have, no disrespect to any of the grey hairs in the room, and I include myself in that, the last thing we want to do is, I started as a pot washer, I started as a waitress, and look at me now as the CEO. It doesn't resonate. However, start talking to them about part-time work, fitting in around your YouTube career, doing what you want to do, giving you transferable skills, and the biggest one I've discovered from a hotel perspective, your uniform, you know, the swanky dresses that you get to wear, the nice clothes, they like that, so we should sell that. The other thing then I think what we need to do is to not be apologetic about this being an industry where you churn. This should be the nation's favourite first job. Nowhere else do you get transferable skills, social skills, conflict management, conflict resolution, HR, finance, business. It is the best first job, and we should make a virtue of that. So we shouldn't be apologetic about the fact that people come in and they leave very quickly. We've equipped them to be a leader in any sector of the economy that they come into. So we need to make sure we've got those case studies, twin track, but we need a recruitment campaign, and we'll need to be able to come out to the industry to fund that if we're going to take it further forward.
Thank you. Another question for Kate. While you're thinking of a good question, or even a bad one actually at the moment, would be welcome. You didn't mention salaries in your answer there, Kate. Now, we know that wages pay is shooting up. It's massively higher than it was in 2019 within hospitality. Is that not part of the solution to the recruitment issue in itself?
I think a bigger part of it is looking at the overall employment package that we offer and the way in which we treat people. And I don't think collectively we've been very good at dealing with our employer brand as a hospitality industry. I think that's what we need to invest more in. If Amazon is paying £22 an hour for casual staff at Christmas, we're never going to be able to compete on wages. So we've got to compete on other aspects of it. Wage rate inflation currently running at 11% and 13% for existing staff across the UK. It will go up again when national living wage increases. So I don't think it's just about pay, and we do have good pay rates in the sector. We need to spell out the fact that the average wages are higher than people think. We tend to talk about hourly rates. We don't tend to talk about the annual salaries, the fact that you can earn 50, 60, 70, 80,000. That's what we should be talking about. But equally, I think it's important, particularly in areas like hotels, that we look at hours of working, ways of working, split shifts, double shifts. We should make a virtue of the fact that we're 24/7. We can fit in with whatever you want as an employee, not you fitting in with whatever we want as an employer. And for the customer, does it really make much difference if it's the same person checking you in at night that checks you out in the morning? Probably not. But does it make a difference to that person's quality of life and employment and the package? We should be flexible.
Thank you. We now have a question from the chairman of Lucknow Park, whose voice you may recognise.
Kate, one of the things that parents look for is qualifications. They want their children to go to university to get a degree. They're not worried about what job they do, they just want them to have a qualification. I think we have now in place apprenticeships, but I've been asked to advise on the T-level programs, which at the moment is covering kitchens, but we need it to cover front of house as well. Very often, kitchen apprenticeships, have run quite smoothly over the years through the Academy of Culinary Arts and various other now providers. But front of house is very important. Do you think we can manage to persuade government to cover front of house as well, and possibly, go into housekeeping where there are major problems? But it is that qualification that I think parents are looking for.
I think you're absolutely right. No, I don't think we will be able to convince government about the alternative qualifications at a T level. Government is really quite keen to make sure that T levels are seen separately from apprenticeships, that all of the stuff you're talking about on the work, on job training, is right for apprenticeships, and that's where they want to see them focus, both at 16 and at 18 or at 21 or older. So those front of house skills and housekeeping, highly skilled, highly vocational, they're learnt on the job, they're not learnt in a classroom. And T-levels are about a replacement for A-levels. So I think we've got more scope in talking about the business qualifications that you can do and making sure that we partner schools with hospitality businesses so that you can show 16, 17-year-olds who are doing A-levels that if you're interested in business, you can be in accountancy, you can be in finance, you can be in business in a widget factory, but you can have much more fun in hospitality. We ought to play up the fact that you can have really good fun and it's a good camaraderie and we've got a great environment. So I think it's better that we focus our attention on the areas where we can win, and T-levels isn't going to be one of those for some of those qualifications. But I think we can make sure we've got really good hospitality diplomas that pick up all those entry-level apprenticeships across front of house from in-work training and accelerate them through to leadership qualifications and stitch the points through, because we're good at entry level, we're good at top level, we're not good at taking people through that journey and getting them through the leadership qualifications and developing them. But at a school level, it's an uphill battle because it has to fit in within a standard curriculum.
Another question for Kate Nicholls. Yes. Nearer to you this time, Helen.
Good morning. It's Wayne Brown from Inspired Energy. This could be quite controversial, I don't know, but I'm speaking as a customer of hospitality. What concerns me is, certainly since we came out of lockdown, is the wide variance of customer service. And I just wondered whether there are any kind of future initiatives to try and shore up on customer service. Obviously, it's an important area. And obviously what you said, Kate, is that the industry is running short of staff. So it would be interesting to find out if there are anything we're doing on training.
Yeah, there are some really good training qualifications for that sort of customer welcome, customer experience, not necessarily in the vocational training of the type that Harry was talking about or formally, but People First do have, sort of welcome host programs, welcome host qualifications that sit alongside that underneath an apprenticeship to be able to deal with that customer service. I think it's something we will need to come back to. During the course of the pandemic and coming out of the pandemic, a lot of focus went on training the staff to make sure we had sanitation, hygiene, and sort of that cleanliness and that focus. And we've probably lost a little bit of the welcome and the customer service approach as we've got used to that, and that's become more embedded. So I think it's a very valid point that we need to return to that.
Did I see another hand a moment ago? Yes.
Thanks for being. Can you hear me okay?
I can now, yeah,
Okay.
just shout.
Okay. Thanks for being a great face for the industry, first of all, in the last 18 months.
Thank you.
And just, I guess, continuing the theme, obviously, hospitality is a people industry first, and it's well known for that, and that's a big challenge. But probably less well known, perhaps, for kind of technology and innovation. And that's something people are talking a lot about to kind of help us out of the challenge. And I'm just wondering if there's anything on either your radar or government radar to help hotels kind of investing in technology and innovation.
It's a really good question, and yes, as part of that hospitality strategy work stream that I mentioned that government has, that's a 3-year plan from government as to how do we improve the industry, develop the industry, support it. And technology innovation is something that the government wants to encourage investment in. Obviously, it's quite challenging at the moment for operators who are still focused on survival mode and coming out of survival mode rather than looking ahead. But one of the things that came out of the COVID pandemic is really rapid acceleration and investment in new technology that people would have taken 18 months to do. They did in about 3 weeks, whether that was online ordering, QR codes, menus, data capture, but also some really interesting AI technology as well about how do you automate the mundane to free up your staff, back to the earlier question about customer service, automate the mundane, free up your staff to invest in the experience and deliver the experience, because a vending machine can give you service, but only a person can give you an experience, and that's what we want to focus on. So I think there is a big focus there. Couple of things that the government is doing. Obviously, we've got the super deductor in place at the present moment in time, which is 120% capital allowance for investment in new technology. So there's a lot of stuff that people could do now. Obviously, it comes off corporation tax, so you have to be making a profit. So there's the challenge at the moment about how you do that, but you could bring forward losses to be able to cover that. I'm not an accountant, so that's as much as I can tell you about super deductors, but I'm sure there's people more qualified than me who can. And then secondly, the government changed the business rates regime in the last budget to make sure that if we were investing in technology for sustainability, for green issues, then again, we could have incentives off the business rates regime to be able to encourage and incentivise that innovation. But I think the key message that I would take from COVID is customers are not as scared of technology being delivered in a hospitality environment. They don't see it as cutting across the service, they see it as enhancing it. And so we can be confident about making that investment.
Well, I think that just about wraps it up for you, Kate. That's your time taken. Thank you so much.
I should have said to everybody at the start, if you see me sniffling or coughing on stage, I am not infectious, I don't have COVID, I don't have a cold. It's coming back into ferocious air conditioning and travelling on the central line that has triggered allergies. So please don't worry that I've come in here and infected everybody. I'm not.
That's very reassuring, but I think we're going to keep our distance anyway, aren't we, ladies and gentlemen? Kate NICHOLLS, thank you very much.